Hi, I'm Corey.
Hi, I'm Tess.
Welcome to A Lovely Place.
We're so glad you've joined us as we invite Jesus into the midst of our lives, learning, and laughter.
We hope this podcast can encourage your heart and make you smile today.
Hi, Tess.
Hello, Corey.
Oh, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. In my
Good.
closet.
In your closet? I know I don't know, yeah. Hi, I'm in my room. Guest room, office, recording studio.
Yes. Yeah, I'm doing okay. It's been a long couple weeks, and it feels like it's taken us a long time to get back to recording. We had like a big stretch there where we did a bunch, and then
Yeah.
maybe that was God's way of giving us cushioning that we needed for
Yes.
a few rough weeks. So
And some fun in there too.
and some fun weeks.
We got to see each other in person, face to face. So that was super fun. And
yes, that was good.
It's been good to have these chapters marinating because they're called Change Your Mindset and Change Your Atmosphere.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So this is our featured book, Famous at Home by Dr. Josh and Christy Straub. And we have finally made it into the 7 decisions to put your family center stage. So the previous chapters were kind of setting the stage for these decisions that you actually have to incorporate into your family to make them
get to
center stage. Yes. It just reminds me that like no matter how much I read or learn, it doesn't have an impact until things start changing in what I do and what I say. So,
yeah.
So this is where the rubber meets the road, I guess, if we want to call it that. So
yeah, back to our car analogy.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently we drive a little too much. It's always at the forefront of our minds. So I think I've officially read these chapters now like 3 times, because I keep like reviewing them before we record, and then we've had some hangups with whatever that it didn't happen. So they're really good ones. And so the Change Your Mindset chapter reminded me of, they were talking about when a plane is flying in the skies, that in order to change course, they don't like just do like a 90-degree turn, like that would end very badly. They do what's called vectoring, which is like small course corrections. So, and they factor in the wind speed and all these other things to show them how to correct their course slowly to get to where they want to go. And that reminded me of our first featured book, The Lazy Genius Way, where she talked about small steps, and big stuff doesn't stick usually. It has to be small things that we can maintain, that
we can actually accomplish,
Yeah.
which leads to change, which also makes me reference that Atomic Habits book of breaking the goal down so small that it's atomic. It's the whole deal about that.
Ooh, that's a good one. That reminds me of I read, what's his name? The book is called Finish It, I think. John Acuff. And he talked about that too. Like whenever you set a goal, like cut it in half or, something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
16ths, whatever you need.
Exactly.
A goal can be an 8/16, but cake want a little bit bigger.
Oh, goodness.
Okay. Change my mindset. Oh, then we're talking about cake again. Oh, just kidding.
I can't eat cake, so it's not a thing anymore, I guess. Now there's other things, ice cream, but,
Yeah.
So the 3 things that it talks about in this chapter are to identify your greatest pain point, define your first goal, and set your first rhythm. So, I don't know, what stood out to you, like, if you feel comfortable sharing about, like, what is your greatest pain point? What came to mind with that?
Well, it was like, how do I narrow it down? Is what I was thinking. Like, but like this season has been the health, physical body movements. How's that for a sentence? Just the limitations that I feel in my body. And then I was really nervous to go on the road trip and to do all these different things that would be out of my normal bed routine, all the things that I have here. And it was like, oh, okay, I can do this. And it was like, oh, I did it. And I didn't, and I wasn't like, because I'm like, okay, I'll take all my things,
Yeah.
Not
Accessories.
Yes, accessories. But I was just like, oh, I'm going to take extra ibuprofen if I need to take that. But I didn't need to take that like I thought I was going to. So that was a nice thing. So it's my biggest pain point, but also like, I'm coming out of it, but I don't know what that means. So it still is in my head heavy. And then, working on my mental health is a necessary pain point. Or
Yeah.
I don't know, like I can't wrap my head around it yet of being in the moment and going forward, but having to deal with what's happened before to be able to be in the moment in a mindset that's happening or that's helpful, and an atmosphere that's in my family that I'm wanting to cultivate, not something that's like so stressed and
Yeah.
opposite, or like going back to like the physical thing, like limping around or using a cane, right? Like I don't want to do that. I want to be like, how do I do this without limping?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because we limp mentally and emotionally sometimes too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I think for me, what stood out as my greatest pain point is, and I think after reading these chapters, I realized how much I play into this too. But I think the greatest pain point that always comes to my mind is how much like bickering and just like complaining and things go on um, with our kids. But then through reading these chapters, I have also just been not remarking, but like reflecting on how much sometimes I can contribute to that without really like being able to see that I'm contributing to it, but that
Yeah.
just the way that I respond to things sometimes, or the way that I talk about things influences that. So,
That's big.
yeah. And sometimes it feels like, well, how do I do this differently? You
Yeah.
know? Ugh, yeah. Because it's really easy for things to just, especially if you're stressed out or like have a lot going on in a day, for things to just like spill out of your mouth without you really like considering like this is what's coming out and this is how it may be received and all the things.
Yeah.
um so yeah, that's, I don't know, been I I don't know if weighing on me is the right word, but it feels heavy. It feels like
Yeah. Well, it's
this
like
is
you become aware of something, and so then you're like, oh, wait a minute, is this a old pattern or a new pattern, or is this like going back to the airplane thing and the what was the word? Wasn't trajectory, it was
vector.
vectoring. To change the directory or to track whatever. I can't even say either word. But then that goes back, like you have to know there's a problem before you can change it.
Yeah.
Right. So that I feel like that's what my whole thing is of well, like kind of being forced into learning about how I'm sitting, standing, moving from my literal pain point on my body, and
Yeah.
changing that, and then how that's kind of like coinciding with how my brain is thinking about things and processing and paying attention to how I'm respond. Like you're saying, like it's like, oh, how am I responding to my husband in this moment, or how am I responding to my son? And I've been challenged, and I don't know what chapter it is now because they're all kind of mushed into my head together now.
Right.
But just the Like I had the sweetest conversation with Riker about the change your atmosphere, because it has in the little workbook that you can print off from their website, the decision number 2 has this whole flow chart of like atmosphere of complaining versus an atmosphere of gratitude, and then like indifference to an atmosphere of love. And so they're like in tension with each other of the opposites of the thing. And Riker and I had this lovely conversation of talking about stuff. And he likes being interviewed, because he was like, ask me another question, Mom. So I was like, okay. And so we talked a lot more than I thought we were going to, and we asked Google what the words meant and what does that look like in our family. And then he was able to share some stuff from kindergarten last year in his life. But reading through Josh's book and how they were being so kind to their daughter and be entering into her moment when she was frustrated and tired and embarrassed. Maybe I'm jumping ahead to the next chapter. But anyways, they were sitting like asking curious questions. So I guess that's my point of talking about this moment of like you're asking the curious questions of, oh, how am I contributing or not contributing positively or negatively to this that really bothers me? Like,
Yeah.
and why does it bother you? Right? And you're like, not everybody. my chair just went down. Sorry.
You're making a landing.
I'm so making a landing. Let's try this again. So good job is what I'm trying to say, friend.
Thank you. Oh, well, and it reminds me, it goes back to what he was talking about with self-care, and that one of the most important things for raising successful kids is parents managing their own stress. And it just reminded me, this whole thing is just reminding me that when I am not intentional about setting aside time for myself, and I'm not intentional about working my schedule around our life instead of working our life around my schedule, then I get overwhelmed, and then it's like, then the words just come out, because I don't know if that's my way of like making me feel like I'm in control, is, if I just tell everyone what to do and how to fix things, and then it'll be great. But I'm not at fault, but partially responsible for not setting us up for success in the first place, because I'm the gatekeeper of our schedule and our family. And, so.
Right.
Yeah. So, it humbles me. And it reminds me of the verse in James that talks about, slow to anger, slow to respond, quick to listen, or whatever it is. And sometimes I'm not very quick to listen in a way of like wanting to understand. I'm quick to listen so I can be quick to respond, like I'll hear what you have to say, and now I'm going to give my piece,
But
and it's
rebuttal, like you're debating or something.
Yeah. Which, that going to the next chapter, talking about how our brains work,
Yes.
So,
yeah. So I guess I like that the change in your atmosphere. One, I think you have to be aware of what the atmosphere is, and that's kind of hard to look at your own self because you're already in it. Like,
right.
So it's hard to be like, okay, Lord, what's going on here? How can I see this for what it is? Or to be able to ask, like I was like asking Riker, like,
oh,
hey, what do you think about? Do we complain more, or do we have more gratitude? Because there's 2 adults in this house and 1 kid, so he hears. There's lots of words from us too. It's not like there's more parents creating the atmosphere than kids. It's like, wait a minute, how does that work? But so it's a little like looking in the mirror situation of ooh, do I want to see what's going on there? Or would I like to cover it up and not deal with this? Like,
Yeah.
don't want to, or, it feels vulnerable
It is.
to
Yeah.
ask the questions
Mm-hmm.
and to make changes and to change your mindset, because it's like, well, how do we do it now if we're not doing it this way? And
Yeah.
the pattern is set. Like, we could do this dance, right? But it's like, well, what if we tried this dance because that looks like it's more peaceful or more fun or more grateful or patient or gentle, all these things that are good things to strive for.
Yeah.
But then I get stuck in that of, oh, I'm not good enough, and then I beat myself up. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
how can it be small going back to the small changes to change the atmosphere, and what can we do?
Yeah. Well, I love how in this chapter he talks about, or they talk about, the different shifts. Not a bad word there, but shifts that we make in our family to get to the life-giving environment that we want.
Yeah.
And so it's not like it's not like a complete like turnaround or flailing or like jumping off a cliff. It's just like we're shifting. So that makes me think we just move like a teeny bit.
Yeah.
Until we're slowly going in the direction that we want to be.
Yeah, going back to the car, you can't go right to fifth.
Exactly. Exactly.
Let's drive. Oh, sorry.
I think I do that sometimes.
Okay.
And then I probably burn out a little bit. Not in my actual car, but in my life, where it's like, we've got to fix this. Let's do all these things. And then it's like, oh, no.
Yeah.
It's not working. Oh, goodness. But, I like, it's hard to ask, like you were talking about asking Riker or asking, like, it's hard to ask your kids or your spouse to, like, tell you, like, what am I doing wrong? Because you don't ever want to hear that. It's not a fun thing to hear. But without that feedback from them, it's hard to know what direction you should be going in, like, you can think you're going in the right direction, but they might be like, actually, like, I'm over here, like, you're not moving anywhere towards me with what you're doing if we don't actually include them in this process of how we're moving,
Well, and then I think we were because I told you we were looking up some of the words, and I thought this was interesting. Exhaustion was a noun, apparently. Like it is physical, mental, something.
Oh, right.
But peace was being a verb. So I thought, well, that was interesting. Like, so I'm sure there's more than one way to make it, but I just thought after like the was like action, like you were seeking peace. Like,
oh yeah.
So I appreciated that, just why we were doing our little vocabulary lesson in this of trying to understand what the words mean. But that just spoke to me like we have to take action to get peace.
Yeah.
Like,
that's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Oh.
And then like Riker was frustrated by he didn't want to go to bed early. That was one of his big frustrations in his life. So it's just like trying to remember where he's at in his life. Like, I'm like, yay, let's go to bed. Like, the day is done. We can relax.
Yeah, right.
I see bedtime as a good thing. He sees it as ending my day of fun or whatever.
Yes.
So it just is interesting, just like asking those questions, and you can see life from another person's perspective. And it's not that one's good or bad or wrong or right. It's just that's how Riker's experiencing life and how I'm experiencing it. They're different. Like,
yeah. Yeah. Darn, there's so many people involved in the equation, right? Woo! That's what makes it messy. There's like not just like one right answer. That's difficult. I like knowing the right answer.
Yeah.
My counselor has been talking to me about that a lot lately, because I think I always move to like doing the right thing or finding the right solution. And he's like, let's just kind of ignore the concept of like right and wrong or good and bad at this moment and just like talk about what is. And I'm like, oh, okay. This is hard.
We're sitting in the minute sitting
Moment.
in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's hard. So was there one of the shifts that stood out to you? There was the personal shift, marriage shift, kid shift, and then supernatural shifts, which included blessing, prayer, and righteousness. Is there anything there that stood out to you?
Can I say all of them again? Well, so a different book I'm reading also is Lisa Turker's book, The Best Yes. And she was talking about making decisions. And if you're not in your Bible all the time and doing like your normal, like I'm going to church, my rhythm is set, like I'm doing these things, then you can confidently move like to the next step. But she was like, if you're not doing any of those things and then you're trying to make decisions, then how are you supposed to have the foundation to make them? So it's hard for me not to think like, well, it starts with Jesus every time. But when I first was saying it, I was thinking of personal shift, because that's why I'm reading Try Softer and being in counseling again. Like, it's like I have to deal with my crap before I can help anybody else. And so that's where I'm at. Just put it out there. Like and trying to be patient with myself as I'm making the small changes, because it can't be big changes fast. It needs to be slower than that. And but trusting in that process, that changing the airplane will get it to this destination.
Yeah.
Like, so that's my shift, because but it affects all of them.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So, how's that for an answer? All of them and none of them.
All of the above. I think that for me, I feel like I'm always kind of, the personal shift is at the forefront of my mind, because I think a lot of times I take on a lot of what's going on as my own thing to like fix it, like oh, I did something wrong, I need to change what I'm doing, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So that's always kind of there in my mind. But the one that I feel like maybe God was calling more attention to right now for me is the marriage shift. And like just remembering that kids who have parents who are close and have a strong relationship and treat each other well and talk to each other well will often, then that's how they will see that they should, treat others and things like that. And it helps them to be in a healthier spot. And it just helps us to be in a healthier spot. So I think that that is one that God is bringing my attention to. Like, how am I, kind of back to schedule, how am I making time for my husband, and like time for us together, time for him to have on his own to do the things he wants to do, because oftentimes he won't take that unless I here, here's a room for you, kind of thing.
Right.
So I am wanting to be more intentional with that. And we went through this process of setting up the first weekend of the month to be our family weekend, when we plan together and don't add a lot of things to our schedule and spend time together, but then are intentional about kind of mapping out our month. And we have not been very good about doing that. So I want to actually implement that, instead of just talking about it. So I think that's the thing that I want to work on as we move forward. So
Well, let's check in with that again, because I want to do that too, and trying to figure out what the right recipe is. Maybe monthly is better than trying to do it weekly or just the night before. Seems a little too late. But yeah, because that goes back to the feeling like the mom, the gatekeeper of the family in a way of the schedule, right? Like what's coming in our pen, what's going out of our pen. If we're all sheep in the gate, that's where that went.
Or it makes me think of the wall too, where they were talking about not having a wall between us, but building a wall of protection so that we are, that we are safe as a family.
Right.
In all the holistic parts of our life, and it's hard because there's a lot of things that want to come in and intrude. And I'm reading this book by Francine Rivers called And the Shofar Blew, which the shofar is a horn anyway. But it really is just like challenging me and reminding me that it's just those tiny little decisions that we make in the wrong, like in either direction, but specifically in this book, like in the wrong direction, that can really just make this divide between us and where we want our lives to be, and it's in all those little decisions. All the little things we say make a big difference. So, yeah. It's a good book, but I've been crying a lot. So it's one of those books where I'm just like, oh, goodness. So, but that kind of reminds me of our verse for today.
Oh, good.
Which is Proverbs 18:21. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. And that kind of goes along with the one we had talked about in James too. But how powerful our tongues, our mouths, our words are to those people around us, and
what we hear.
What we hear. Yeah.
I mean, like they're all out there.
Mm-hmm. So I want to be better about being slow to anger, slow to speak, and quick to listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that makes me think of Psalm 103. The Lord is merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in mercy. So I just feel like he's like saying, well, that's my attributes I'm giving to you, and I'm merciful as you are learning how to do that. Like, thank you, Lord God, for helping us.
Yeah.
I need help.
Yes. Me too. Fine. All right. Well, we are making our way through this book. Listeners, I would suggest that you read it on your own, because it's really, if becoming famous at home is something that you want to do, then this book, I think, is a great way to get the not to get the process going or whatever, not to sound like product oriented. It's a great way to get your heart in the right position to be finding out, God, what do you want for our family?
Yeah, it's reframed it in a fresh way. Like, I was like, oh, this will be a fine book, but I'm like, oh, this is a really good book. Like,
yeah, right.
It's kind of surprised me how much I've liked it. Like, not that I didn't or whatever. It's
no, I know what you mean. Yeah,
it's a good book, friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Corey, and thank you, listeners, and we will talk to you next time.
Next time.
Bye.